Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Polar Opposites, the gaming podcast where we rarely talk about video games. I'm your host, That Boy Aqua, joined by my lovely co-host, Nam's Compendium.
Hello.
Today, we are going to continue the trend of not talking about video games, but instead, talking about some movies. But before we get into the topic of today's episode, which is ranking every Spider-Man film, we are going to... I should clarify. Mainstream.
The live action one. You know, when we say Spider-Man movies, you know which ones.
Yeah, the mainstream, more recent ones. We're not going to talk about some random Joe 1970s Spider-Man movie that came out. We're talking about the Raimi trilogy, the Webb duology, the Marvel trilogy, and then we got some surprises in there. And SpiderVerse.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Before we jump into that, I got to ask, Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm a very busy person lately.
You are.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of projects I'm working on. I received a review copy of a game like 2 months ago.
You gonna say what game?
Yeah, like I can say it now. Like Soul Hackers 2, right? Like I got a review copy of that like a very long time ago. And the game is out already for like almost a month. The game's been out. I think actually just over a month. And I still haven't finished my video on it because if I'm being honest, I had so much to say, way more than I thought I did. Have you run into this problem, Nolan, where it's like, you think, oh yeah, this is only going to be like 20 minutes long.
Yep.
And then you write it and it's not even close to 20 minutes long.
I thought when I made my Miles Morales video that ended up being an hour long, I was like, yeah, this is going to be like a quick 20 minutes, half an hour. And then it's like you hit like page 10 and realize you're not even talking about the story yet. And you just think, oh man, it's going to be one of these.
And then it's like you get to the story segment and then you're looking at the notes, you're like little structured notes. It's like, oh, there's only a couple here. I doubt it's going to be that long. And then it ends up still just being half the video.
Yep. And I mean, that's
crazy.
not a bad thing. Longer videos tend to perform better in the algorithm, generally speaking. I don't know why that is, but I wonder if I've thought about this before. I wonder if long videos, because people make the jokes about like, you know, long man bad, and people always say a long video does not mean a good video, because you could shit out a 2-hour video in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. But chances are if it takes that little time, it's probably not written very well. I know that's rich coming from me because I have my own literacy downfalls, but I think people see the length of something and it implies depth, and I think people will click on that more. No lie. Like if you were to put in-depth analysis and the video is also an hour long, I'm like, okay, this is the real deal, and I'm more likely to click on it.
Because the video's length, it implies that there's a lot of substance to it.
Yeah.
Like a lot of supporting arguments or a lot of evidence or whatever. And because the video is long, it generates a lot of watch time. So it would get pushed even further. Like even if it's like, let's say I make a 20-minute video and people watch it up to like the 10-minute mark, the 20-minute video.
Yeah.
But then I make an hour-long one and people watch up to the 20-minute segment. Despite that 20-minute video factually having like a longer view duration or whatever, it's not the same amount of watch time, like not even close.
Yeah.
It's like only half of it. And that's what matters a lot more, because this website wants people to continue to watch stuff. They want them to keep going to more videos or whatever. That's why they started doing shorts.
Yeah.
Very short, quick, like hits of like entertainment that you can just cycle in and out.
But then having the long video implying depth creates a bigger issue, which is why people say long does not equal good, is because without naming any names, we have come across many channel and many of videos that very much seem to artificially stretch the video out, talking about like breaking down a 10-second interaction in a game for upwards of 5 minutes, if not longer. And you know, that's okay. Maybe you're into that. I watched one of my favorite video essays I've ever watched is from a guy called Shay May, and he made it was a 7.5 hour analysis of Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and he covered every interaction, every route, literally the entire game, top to bottom. And it was just well made, though. It didn't feel as though it was length for the sake of length, especially when you look at his channel and you see that, you know, most of the time his videos are relatively short. It felt necessary, and it felt like that was the purpose. But I also feel that there are some channels that will deliberately stretch out videos, i.e. some channels will talk extremely slow And I got a weird comment the other day that was it was a compliment, but it was quite the funny one. It was on my Uncharted 2 or Uncharted 4 video where somebody said, "Immediately loved the video when I put it on 1.5 speed and it sounded like you were talking at 2. Subscribe by the end. This is such a thoughtful and well put together video." And it's because people are used to video essayists just like talking slow as shit.
It's awful. It's so bad.
And I've noticed that I'm a little hyper right now. The last 2 episodes I've been a little I've been subdued, been tired, and I just did like a rail of G Fuel, so I'm just crazy. I'm gonna be crashing by the end of the episode. Don't worry. So what else are you working on?
That's the main project right now. I still have to do the voiceover for that. Like that's the one that's like completely underway.
Okay.
And then other than that, I think I have everything else I want to talk about for the rest of the year already sorted out.
Yeah. That makes one of us.
And hopefully, if I have the work ethic and drive, like right now, I have 3 things I'm working on for the end of the year, including the Soul Hackers 2 video. And if things go well, I can hopefully squeeze in a 4th one, but I doubt it. So I just want to get those 3 major ones, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. I've tried to make a plan of what I'm going to do, but I don't know if it's this weird, like, this could be a childhood habit that is carried over into my adult life, but I hate being told what to do, and I hate feeling like I need to do something, i.e., the reason I haven't covered Dying Light 2 yet is because people keep asking for it, and it just, I don't know why it annoys me. It's a weird pet peeve, but when somebody asks for a video, I think, no, I'm going to do what I want. For example, I've been getting requests to review Dishonored for like years now. And I only actually felt like doing it once people stopped asking for it. And that feels, it's not a petty thing. Like, it's not like I'm trying to stick it to the man or stick it to my viewers in any way, but it's this strange, I desire spontaneity, and I want to be able to immediately think, I want to talk about this, because my best videos come from a place of passion and a place of hyper focus, and I can't force myself to constantly think about something I don't want to. And so when I make a video, I just need to immediately, like, what is piquing my interest right now? Otherwise, I think the video is going to be weak, and it just won't be as fun. And so I'm hoping I get hyper fixated on Assassin's Creed so I can finish off those games by the end of the year, but I know myself and I know I won't. And the reason I think that might happen is because people have finally stopped asking for me to review Rogue. And so now, my desire to do it is like, oh yeah, maybe I could now.
The cycle continues.
Something new for me. I got a new phone, which was pretty good. And I got a story, man. I already told you about this, but so I had an iPhone X for 4 years now. It treated me very well, but it started getting to the point where it's slow as hell. The battery was running dry, like couldn't go more than 3 hours. And so I ended up taking chargers with me everywhere I went. I don't leave the house without my backpack, so it's not much of an inconvenience, but I got to a point where I said, you know what, if I'm on the train, which it usually takes me 2.5 hours to get from home to school by taking the bus and the train. And so if there were to be a complication out there and my phone dies, then that's bad news. So I thought, I'm going to upgrade, and I don't like buying expensive stuff, but when it comes to phones, if I'm going to get a new phone, I want the best phone I can get, or at least like a really nice one, because I want it to last. So I bought the iPhone 14 Pro, and I'd intended to, and so I went into this place, this unidentified location that my parents recommended. They're like, oh, we bought our phones from here, you should go do it. I went in, I said, hey guys, I'm looking to buy the new iPhone. They said, yeah, sure. I said, but I don't want to do a contract. You guys just sell them outright? And I think I was very polite about it. And this guy looks at me, laughs, and says, yo, who the fuck buys phones outright these days? And the whole fucking counter erupts in laughter. And they all laugh at me. Is this real? Dude, this is exactly what I'm saying. It was such an unbelievable interaction that I think there's no way people are going to believe me when I tell them.
That doesn't sound...
It's comical.
That just sounds so cartoonish.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't sound real.
And that's why I didn't say a word. I was stunned. I'm like, this is not happening, right? I felt so... I felt so belittled and disrespected, but also just in awe. Like this... It was like this Twilight Zone of... Is this actually happening to me right now? And so I just turned around, walked out. I went to Bell, which, you know, regardless of the issues with Bell, they were really nice to me. They also weren't selling the phones outright, but it didn't matter. So I ended up just financing it. And then I did the biggest down payment I could, haggled my current phone bill down by $5, and I financed the last, because you have to do a contract at these places. And so in my contract, I'm now paying off the rest of the phone in increments of $5 a month for the next 2 years. So my phone bill has basically not changed, and I've more or less bought it outright. Because I wasn't planning on leaving my current provider anyways. I don't, because, you know, they're fine, and I don't like change. The phone's amazing, by the way. Love it.
I find it pretty ridiculous that buying just phones, specifically Apple products, like just buying them outright, is kind of needlessly difficult.
Yeah.
Like, why can't I just buy the phone?
Yeah, and they do it because, you know, phone companies want you to be locked into a contract with them, and then they can fuck you around or whatever. But yeah, it is one of those weird things where it's so hard to get this new product, and you'd think Apple, the biggest company in the world, anticipating that their phones are going to be flying off shelves, would stock more of them. But no, it doesn't happen.
I bet they do have like some sort of deal where they provide these phones for like a cut.
Oh, surely they do. As far as what I'm working on right now, I'm working on a video on Assassin's Creed Chronicles, and I just finished a big video on Skate that I think by the time this podcast episode goes out will be out, and if not, then congratulations, you get to hear it early. And yeah, I love the Skate games. I've been having a great time replaying them and great time talking about them. I'm not excited for Skate 4, but that's a whole nother discussion I don't want to go into. Before we go into the main topic, I just want to address one final thing. Last episode, because Adam derailed the podcast immediately as it started, and it was still a pleasure hanging out and talking with him, we never did the question of the day for our lovely viewers. And so I'd like to extend the question of the day to you, Nicholas, and to the lovely viewers. And that question is, what do you what aspect of a game do you think is the most important to you? Is it the presentation, i.e. like, you know, music, graphics, visuals, UI, that kind of stuff? The gameplay, which is, you know, the mechanics, or is it the story? Self-explanatory.
I think at this point, gameplay and story have become pretty synonymous with me as being, like, important, but depending on the thing in question, it's clear where one is valued more so over the other, and in that case, I will put more emphasis on the thing that is valued, right?
Okay.
Like, if a game, let's say, everyone's favorite Sonic the Hedgehog comes out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't put any focus on the story. Maybe a little bit, like not a whole lot. There's like a little bit there, but it's still more a gamey type game. I will adjust my expectations to focus on what is clearly the most important aspect of that kind of game.
Yeah, but to you, like if you're, say it's like Game Dev Tycoon, you have the 3 bars that you can put up. Where are you putting those bars, and which one is the highest?
The highest bar for me, it would probably be story. Like, if I were to make a game, if only because I find stories are more likely to leave a impact on people than gameplay, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And in the best case scenario, you can tie that story directly to gameplay in a way that no other medium can do, and make video games way more unique in that way.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite games is on the DS. It's called The World Ends With You, and that game ties its gameplay.
Tell me what you fucking actually call it, okay? Because I think it sounds stupid as fuck.
I don't like to call it this often. I only do it on a very shorthand in like a video, but the game is called The World Ends With You, and the acronym that fans call it, they shorten it, it's called TWEWY.
Yeah.
And it sounds really stupid, but I call it that in my video a couple times because I didn't want to keep saying The World Ends With You like over and over again.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel like a fucking dumbass whenever I say TWEWY.
Because it sounds like a little kid who doesn't know how to speak, like, oh, TWEWY. And so we'll be in a call, and it's like you and Tony are talking about it, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, TWEWY is a pretty good game. And then you're like, well, actually, Neo TWEWY is just as good. And I think, oh my god, you guys sound like 5-year-olds.
So like,
it's fucking hilarious. I'm sorry, keep going.
Yeah, but as I was saying, that game ties its gameplay and story heavily into each other, and I think that's part of the reason why I find it so unique and memorable.
Yeah.
And when I say gameplay and story, I don't mean that fucking bullshit modern game thing where it's like, oh, you have to slowly walk down this hallway while characters talk to each other. Oh, like, no.
Yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2 does that a lot.
Like, half the modern Sony games are just that.
The amount of times I've crashed my horse in Red Dead because I'm genuinely falling asleep while playing the game is fucking insane. And I don't mean that as a slag against the game, but it's just that dude, people are going to hold this shit against me, but it's like, I need constant stimulus. I cannot just walk and listen to somebody. Give me something. I need something to do. Even in something like, yeah, a cutscene's obviously different, but if I'm in gameplay, don't restrict me. Like if I'm in a walking segment, let me jump. Let me spin around. Let me teabag just like randomly. Just give me something to do. Give me the feedback loop, you know? And Red Dead doesn't do that. Instead it's, hey, push this wheel because it fell off your cart. Okay, now press E to lift up the cart. Okay, press E again to put the wheel back on. And then walk over to your horse, get the screwdriver, walk back down, press E to screw it in. Press E to unequip the screwdriver. Press E to go back to the horse, put the screwdriver away. Press E to get back onto the carriage. Oh, wheel fell off again. Like, it's too much. I don't know. But I've also heard that Red Dead gets really good. It starts slow. So I'm going to stick with it, obviously. And it's not like I'm not enjoying the game. It's just that I find it, the downtime is too down. My answer would just be gameplay and presentation. I think those are the most important to me because I find that that's what gets me coming back to a game. And that's not to say I don't enjoy a good story. I do. I can think of plenty of games that have great stories. Off the top of my head, you know, Spider-Man PS4 has a great story. I absolutely, I don't know if this counts, but Outer Wilds has an exceptional story. But I find that the games I return to more are the ones that have the most mechanical depth and the ones that look the best. Because I'm a sucker for good visuals. And I think people tend to devalue visuals a lot because they're like, oh, it's just a pretty coat of paint. It doesn't mean anything. It's if it doesn't have good gameplay and story, then it's hollow and soulless. It's like, no, I for example, I mean, I'm talking about Chronicles right now, and Chronicles graphically is not very good, but its art style is so unique that I can't help but absolutely love it. It makes those games stick out in my mind because I think of the Chronicles games, I'm like, there is no other game, or not many at least, that look like that compared to games that I love, like the mainline Assassin's Creed games. They're all just, you know, realism. Like that's their art style, basically. You know, it just doesn't, like if you think about what makes each Call of Duty visually distinctive from one another, aside from time period, nothing. They all just look realistic. That's fine, but yeah. That's where I stand on it. And obviously gameplay is the highest because I think, you know, game can't get anything. You can't get that anywhere else. So let's move on to the topic of today's episode, trying to be a little more swift in our transition from the introduction. And leave your comments below for what your answer to the question of the day is. I'd be curious to know what you would pick and why. So we're going to do this in chronological order. We have a little list here. So the first one that we're going to be ranking on, we have a tier list pulled up right now that's D, C, B, A, and S. And that's just going to help us keep an eye on where placements are. And it'll just give you guys an idea of, you know, if we had to put a letter to a movie, which I know is a very poor thing to do, but whatever. Spider-Man 1, Sam Raimi. Nick, give me an idea of what do you think about the movie? What do you think its strengths are? What do you think its weaknesses are? And then tell me where do you think it belongs on this ranking?
All right, so the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man 1 from 2002, I think, is a pretty good movie. It has a lot of memorable dialogue.
Yeah.
It has some kind of cheesy acting, but I think it's pretty it's pretty fun.
You had actually said the other day that it was the most quotable movie you can think of.
Yes.
And I agree.
Out of all the Spider-Man movies, this one, to me, has the most quotable dialogue.
Yep.
Whether that be, like, silly, funny memes or whatever.
No, something
or
of a
even just, like,
myself.
Things that characters just say to each other. Just, like, lines in the movie that are impactful or just scenes in general. I remember so much of this movie. And part of that might be because I've just seen it so many times. But there's probably a reason why I usually choose to pick to watch this Spider-Man movie over most of them.
You know, I don't know about you, but this was my first Spider-Man movie I ever saw. I mean, aside from, I think I saw the cartoons growing up, but this was the first real one that I saw. And so this is a nostalgia pick for me. I do think it's possibly the best of the trilogy. I know people like Spider-Man 2 a lot, but I just think I'm a sucker for origin stories. I'm a big sucker for the homemade suits, the ones where, you know, in the Raimi case, it's just a sweater, some sweatpants. I love that kind of stuff. And I think the Green Goblin is an amazing villain and was done so well. Willem Dafoe is just exceptional in the movie. Yeah, like it was a legendary performance. There's a lot of cheesy lines. One of my favorites, because this is so stupid, is after Norman and Peter are fighting in the burning building, they then go to Harry's apartment for Thanksgiving. And Norman walks in and he's like dripping in sweat And he just looks like hell. And he comes in, he's like, oh, sorry, guys, work was murder. It's like, because he's killing people. Holy shit. And it's so good. Things like Something of a Scientist Myself, the teacher looking younger than the students in the opening.
One of my favorites is when Peter accidentally like throws food all over Flash Thompson and he wants to fight him. He says, I don't want to fight you, Flash. And then Flash says, I wouldn't want to fight me neither. And then in the background, you could hear a guy go, kick his ass, man.
Yeah, dude.
It's so good.
Or like, Mary Jane's like, go help him. And fucking James Franco's like, which one? James Franco in all these movies is just hilarious. The first one seemed like he was kind of trying. Same for the second one. The third one, dude, he did not give a shit. It's so good. That, and I like that Peter goes through a pretty good metamorphosis here. I also, there were a few scenes in especially Spider-Man 2. Well, I guess we'll move on to that after. Aunt May in this trilogy was amazing.
Yeah.
And
she's my favorite Aunt May out of all of them.
Yeah. I can agree with that. That reminds me of another line. Finish it! I'm evil!
Another thing that I like about Spider-Man 1 is that its visual effects are still pretty solid.
Yeah.
There's some practical explosions here and there. It's pretty cool. There's, the CG can be kind of rubbery, but even the web swinging looks pretty good still.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's important to emphasize that there was no, like, other live-action Spider-Man to this scale before.
Yeah, there was no blueprint, no comparison, no nothing.
So he, like, took just the pages of the comics of the character doing... just swinging on webs, something that is impossible, and he made it look like it could happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty impressive.
And this movie set a lot of the groundwork for themes and tropes that these other movies would follow. The ending swing of a Spider-Man movie. Every Spider-Man movie, I think almost every single one of them ends with a final swing of sorts. That was first a thing here.
And I think that was the best way to end that movie.
Yeah.
Just after the funeral, he turns down Mary Jane to protect her, and then he reiterates the opening monologue of the movie as like a bookend.
Yeah. Oh,
the music too, the score.
Yeah. Fantastic.
This is the Spider-Man theme, I think.
Oh, without a doubt. I like the MCU theme because it does call back to the older cartoons or whatever, but these movies had a great theme. I mean, we're jumping ahead a lot here because we're talking within the trilogy, I guess, but even things like the theme for the symbiote suit, that's just iconic. And even the Marc Webb movies had a good soundtrack too and good themes. But yeah, this movie's just amazing. All that's running through my head right now are the different lines. Back to formula. Mm-hmm. Well, you can't do this to me. So where would you put this?
I would give this one a solid A tier, personally.
Really? You wouldn't put in an S? What are the downsides to the movie for you?
I think the first half is significantly better.
Yeah.
I think the origin stuff is pretty much perfect. But it's so good, to me anyways, like it's so good that the second half doesn't completely compare, but it is a natural payoff because that first half of the movie is dedicated to both Peter's origin and Norman Osborn's origin.
Yeah.
And then we get to see them clash heads. We get to see them fight each other. There's the ideology of like, when, like, despite everything you've done to them, like, done for them, eventually they'll hate you, which is a part of the movie where people just start hating Spider-Man because they think he's working with the Goblin.
Yep. And that theme permeates through basically every iteration of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I will say, though, I think for me, the movie really slows down after Aunt May is hurt.
It does slow down for a bit.
Yeah, like it has this weird... The pace kind of slows down really heavily, and I guess in movie time, it only slows down for like 5 or 10 minutes. But every time I watch the movie, I think, can we skip ahead to when they start fighting in the under the bridge?
I think it's because of the bridge scene is like right after that part of the movie.
Yeah. Is
why it feels so awkward.
Also, just the idea of calling the phone and then Green Goblin's like, come out to play. And then he's like, okay.
This implies he was waiting at MJ's apartment the whole time.
Oh my lord.
Oh man, how many kids do you think are gonna watch this movie and they're gonna see a payphone and have no idea what it is?
It's almost the iPhone 1. Shit just came out. Doesn't even have TikTok on it.
Oh.
But yeah, okay, so I think it belongs in S tier, to be honest with you, but we'll go A tier for now, and then we can adjust it later. Because I mean, the tiers don't really mean anything. We're more trying to rank these amongst each other relatively. Yeah. So, Spider-Man 2, widely regarded as the greatest Raimi movie. Some would say greatest Spider-Man movie, hands down. What are your thoughts on it?
I think it's really good. Like if I were to take off the nostalgia goggles in a way, I'd say it's just as good as the first one.
Yeah.
It has a much more consistent pace. Everything feels more evenly distributed in the story.
Mm-hmm.
A great thematic line where it's Spider-Man's battle with his personal life versus his responsibility.
Yep.
Even going as far as to adapt when he quits, which I think is pretty good.
And it was done well too. It was, I don't know how to explain it, but actually, funny enough, so when I was a kid and I saw this movie, I didn't like it as much as the first because there was less action.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of action in the first act and third act, but the second act is barely anything. And it's because it's about that he quits for a while. Raindrops keep falling on my head. And he eats hot dogs while watching people die or some shit. And he lives his normal life. As a kid, I didn't like that. I was like, I want to see Spider-Man beat up Tentacle Man. Because this movie came out in 2004, and I was like, by the time I ended up seeing it, I was probably like 6 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But as an adult rewatching the movie, I appreciate that second act so much.
Uh-huh.
And I think it was handled super well. This movie also has a ton of quotable lines, and I think maybe it's not as quotable as the first one because I haven't seen it as many times. But, Butterfingers, Power of the Sun, Harry Osborn saying that Spider-Man humiliated him by touching him. And then he puts his sunglasses on and walks away. Like,
that's pretty good.
Stuff like that. It seemed less cheesy in a lot of ways, but it was definitely a great look into that double life. Whereas the first movie sort of had a theme about, it was the origin story, obviously, and Peter sort of enjoying this new power and coming to terms with, he opens himself up to having these people come after him and the people he loves. And it focused a lot on sort of the birth of Spider-Man, which is super important for the first movie, and I think that's great. But it really felt like the second movie dove into the concept of this persona of Spider-Man really burying Peter alive. And his life is essentially being ruined by it. And even when that balance is... That's the thing with Spider-Man. The balance is never really struck, but even when it seems like he's managing it well in 3, there's still so many issues that come into play.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what makes 2 really special and makes it more distinctive, is that it's just as much of a Peter Parker movie as it is a Spider-Man movie.
Like, Spider-Man 1, I think, only had like a throwaway line about him losing his internship because he was being a superhero or something.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I was late for work, so Dr. Connors fired me.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't really come up that much. His superhero life and personal life intersecting is more so in his relationships, in the sense that those people are in danger. Spider-Man 2 does it in a way where it's his social life that gets crippled. Like, he loses his job at the start of the movie. He's not getting nearly as much money for his pictures anymore. And most importantly, his relationship with Mary Jane is, like, put in jeopardy.
Oh yeah, it's
he likes her,
as
but
hell.
he knows he can't be with her. And then she is gonna get married to, what's his name? John Jameson?
Yeah.
Is that the son?
Yeah, the astronaut. Yeah, and that's what's like really interesting about it, is that she wants it too. And for her, she's thinking, why isn't he doing it? He says he wants to, but he can't. What the fuck? And of course, she eventually, it's in Spider-Man 2 that she finds out, right?
Yeah, it's at the end of the movie.
Or she shows up in the wedding dress and says, "Go get him, Tiger." That's a cheesy part of the movie, but it's earned. I like it.
Yeah.
Alfred Molina, is that his name?
Yeah, that's the actor for Otto.
Killed it.
Absolutely.
I can't see him in any other movie and not think, holy shit, Otto's in this movie. Like,
I think he's just as good as Willem Dafoe.
Oh yeah,
for that role.
100%. Just stellar performance. And we didn't talk about it with the first one, but Tobey Maguire kills it.
Oh yeah,
like without a doubt, because he he perfectly embodies the pussy nature of Peter Parker. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, he's Spider-Man, and he has that boosted confidence once he realizes his new powers, but he's ultimately a bit of a bitch when he's in Peter Parker mode. And it really, Tobey is able to really show that the mask itself is what gives him the confidence. Once he puts on that mask, he's a different dude. And even outside of the safety precautions that really warrant that, it serves as a disconnect. You know, in Spider-Man 3, there's a it's like a very mild theme. But it's this idea of Peter Parker and Spider-Man are two separate people living in the same body. And that actually, that's a major theme in 2. But they sort of explored a interesting part of that in 3, which was just the fame that comes with that. And how Peter Parker it seems that as though he thinks he's famous, but no, you're not. Spider-Man's famous. You just happen to be the dude. It's like if you play a character like Barney or something like that, and the dude, the 40-year-old bald guy inside the Barney costume is like, they love me. No, they don't. They love Barney. And so I think that's one of the few praises I can give to 3, genuinely. But 2 overall is good, and we got to talk about that hospital scene, man, with Otto, straight out of Evil Dead.
I love that scene. I love that scene so much. That used to scare the shit out of me as a kid.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Like that was like the intention, but now it's like, oh man, that's sick. Oh, another thing that Spider-Man 2 I think undoubtedly does the best, the train sequence.
Oh yeah. Is
probably the best set piece out of all 3 of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely complex, like visually speaking. Like that was a fucking nightmare to make, I bet. I think it's a great use of Spider-Man as a character using his powers in an interesting visual style. I can think of plenty of memorable shots from the train sequence alone. Like the part where he gets thrown inside the train, he like spins around the pole. That's pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
There's the part where he stops the train.
Yeah.
Everyone loves that.
And this movie really showed off the facial expressions of Tobey Maguire.
Oh yeah.
I
think this is where all the famous Tobey Maguire faces come from.
And screams.
At the end of the movie, yeah.
Although there is one scream and like soy face in Amazing Spider-Man that has not seen the same love and attention, but we'll talk about that later.
That's another one. Oh my god.
So what do you think are some weaknesses for the movie?
Dialogue I don't think is as memorable.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say. The whole mental blockage thing, while thematically fitting, always kind of felt weird to me. Implying that Spider-Man's powers are linked to his mental state are very strange.
Well, because I think they're trying to say that subconsciously he actually doesn't want it. He's getting to that point where I guess maybe he's questioning so much, like, is it really worth it? And he's becoming so frustrated with basically not being able to have anything he wants in life because of this responsibility that his mind just prevents him from actually doing it. And, you know, I think that is a perfect explanation, or that's a perfectly fine explanation.
Like,
if that's
like
what
as
they're
I
going
said,
for.
I think it's fine thematically, but it feels as though because he subconsciously doesn't want his powers, it's not as if he had much of a choice to quit, if you know what I mean. Like,
no, explain more.
What I'm trying to say is, since his powers were failing him, it could very easily be interpreted as my powers don't work anymore, I guess I have to quit. Like, it'd be different if he kept them, but he actively made the choice to just say, okay, I'm done. Like, and he always had them. But the movie already did have like a big moment, like before he throws away the costume, where he's like, okay, I'm done with this forever.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was younger, I always took it as, oh, his powers just don't work anymore.
Yeah, and I guess I just interpret it as he just subconsciously didn't want it. And I think that's why his powers came back when Mary Jane was in danger, because that's like his...
Really? It actually didn't come back when she was in danger. It came out just before that.
Was it?
But at that point, he was already trying to get them back.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because he went into the burning building without any powers, which
he goes
I thought
into the burning building. He tries to like jump across the building, and he breaks his back.
I got the timeline all fucked up. I thought that came after, oh, wow.
Yeah, then he gets them back when Otto Octavius throws a fucking car into the cafe.
Yeah, like that's when he officially gets it back. And I wonder if that was just because it's like now he's, I guess, fully in that mindset again, in the grind set, the Sigma male, Sigma man mindset.
Yeah, it's one of those things that doesn't matter all too much, but like, it's something to think about.
So when we talk about these movies, because of course, whenever something is popular, there has to be people that detest it just because, you know, they want to be cool. And I've seen some recent criticism towards Spider-Man 2 that things like one criticism that me and Nick have both seen from people is how does Harry know where Otto is? Because Harry tells Peter where Otto is, and why would he tell him? And, you know, how does Harry know, and why would he tell Peter? And I'll admit, that's a perfectly, like, fine inconsistency. Like, if that bothers you, that's cool. Me personally, I don't give a shit about that. Like, that does not... A minor, I guess, like, hole like that does not change the way I see the movies. And I'm not trying to say that it doesn't matter at all. And I'm not trying to say that those people aren't, like, valid for having that bother them. I'm just saying for my personal, I guess, standards or taste or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't bother me. So that's why it's like, I'm not even going to talk about the minor plot holes here or there or stuff like that. We're sort of talking broadly.
It's just movie logic. Like, you can kind of associate, like, why he didn't, I guess, call the police with him wanting Spider-Man, like, I guess, dead, and he's just using Otto as, like, a hitman. Yeah. So it's like, don't tell anyone about where he is. Just give him what he wants. Yeah, that was the criticism. It was, if Harry knew where Otto was, why didn't he call the police? And we could have arguments about that all fucking day, because it's a lot of, like... Because my first thought is, because the police didn't work out well last time, we could jump down, like, a huge hypothetical rabbit hole. But the point that I'm trying to make is that when we talk about things we didn't like about the movie, we're more just going to talk about, like, any major gripes, stuff like that. Because this is a good movie.
Oh, I think so. I think it's great. You know, as we think about it more, I think I'm becoming more comfortable putting it over 1. I don't know about you.
Oh, like, in, like, the critical sense, yeah, I'd say, like, it's better than 1. It's more consistent, better visuals, huge improvement. But for me personally, I just like 1 more, because part of that is that sentimental value.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to disconnect the sentimental value, though. That's my problem.
I don't really see that there's much of an issue with that, with having that, as long as you recognize it.
Because if we're going off of, like, pure sentimental value, then, like, 3 would be higher than 2 for me. Because 3 was one of the first movies I ever saw in theaters, and I remember when it came out, I was so excited and, like, shitting my pants over it that my dad actually took me to the theater Friday morning instead of going to school, and I got to watch Spider-Man 3. So, like, in that sense, I have so much sentimental love towards 3, but there's no chance in hell that I can, with a straight face, put it over any of the other Raimi movies. Like, it can't happen. So, would you be cool if we put 2 over 1? Or do you think
I'm fine with that.
Okay, yeah, we'll come to a middle ground there, because I agree with what you're saying, but yeah. So, next up is Spider-Man 3.
This is not a very good movie. I don't really believe this whole renaissance that's coming out where people are trying to argue that it's actually always been great. Not really, no. Mm-hmm. It's impressive for being as much of a mess as it is. It's impressive that it did come out in a watchable state due to all that studio meddling. It is shocking to me that they managed to cram in a story that makes sense, but there's so much going on that it's very distracting.
Yeah.
This movie had 3 villains. 2 of them were brand new, like fully like introduced, new concepts established. One of them is just a payoff to Harry Osborn, which I think is a great part of the movie.
And I wish was given more focus, because I mean, look, I'm part of your camp, which is, you know, people saying that this was actually great and you guys just don't get it. I don't know. I think that's a stretch. I will say that despite this movie being a mess, I will say that it is probably the most fun out of the 3 movies.
I agree.
Like, I can have, because you want to talk about quotable lines or just cheesy shit. The cheese in this movie is so high. Good riddance, or fucking fix this damn door.
I protect you in high school, Pete. Now I'm gonna kick your little ass. And he goes, "Oh,
yeah, little baby Gobby's gonna cry," or some shit. There's so many good moments. So I can understand that. Yeah, this is a fun movie, and I agree that I think it probably gets a little too much hate, or it used to. But I don't think this shit's a masterpiece, man. The biggest compliment you could pay it is that it is the funniest movie for sure.
I think it's a fun movie, but it's also tonally very inconsistent.
Yeah.
Like, not even, like, moments of levity. It's, like, half of this movie is Peter realizing that Sandman killed his uncle and feeling a regret for killing another different man.
Yeah.
And he gets the black suit. And my unironic favorite line in this movie, like, I say this without any like jokes is when he confronts Sandman in the subway and he's talking about, hey, do you know who Ben Parker is? He's trying to remind him of who he killed. And then he says, what does that matter to you anyways? And he just shouts everything.
Yeah.
Like, that is a great line.
You know, you kind of alluded to it before, but Venom was really a studio shove-in, I guess you want to say. He was not meant to be in that movie. And what's interesting is that if you disconnect Venom from the movie, there's actually a really great through line of just, I guess, Peter's past issues coming back up again. Like, you look at Harry, who, you know, they had a lot of turbulence in the first and second movie, and that's sort of coming to a head here. You have Flint Marko, who basically kickstarted kickstarted the trilogy. Like, if it wasn't for Flint Marko, it would be there would be no Spider-Man.
You know, I just thought of something.
What's up?
In a way, it kind of contradicts the origin story of the first movie, because the whole point was supposed to be that he lets this guy go because, like, he wants revenge on this other guy. So he lets this robber go as like a fuck you to this guy, and it bites him. Though, if he got that robber caught, would that still kill Uncle Ben because Sandman shot him by accident?
He might not have had to steal the car.
It was like a two-man thing. It was like one guy was stealing the car and the other guy was stealing the money. Because it's an issue outside of his control at that point.
Yeah, I guess. What do you think about the black suit?
I like its design.
Oh my god, right? First mod I downloaded for Spider-Man PS4 was the black suit.
Like, I like the black suit in the comics a lot, but I'm a simple man. I just like the black suit redesign of the Raimi suit. I think it looks great.
Yeah, even if it is just... I like the bigger, more aggressive Spider, of course, but it is just like a color swap.
Yeah.
But it's a good one, so it doesn't matter. So we actually haven't talked about the strengths and weaknesses. I think strengths here are, it's cheesy. It has some...
I think it continues the trend of upping the visual effects. The liquid on Venom is very good.
Oh, just the Sandman effects are amazing.
Yeah, the scene where Sandman gets his powers and reforms himself is everyone's favorite scene in the movie, basically.
Yeah. I wish they kept it in. You sent me this, I guess, I don't know if it was post-credits or like ending scene.
Oh, yes, the
Sandman.
Spider-Man 3.1 deleted scenes.
Yeah.
Where one of them is he makes a sandcastle for his daughter.
And then he just floats away in the wind. It's that was actually like really powerful, and I wish that made the final cut. Other strengths were, you know, I like the black suit in concept, because it within this trilogy, it was an interesting means of seeing a Spider-Man and, more importantly, a Peter Parker with his ego not in check. It's like, because the idea that we've talked about this is the alter ego. You know, Peter Parker's a little bitch boy, and so what if he wasn't?
Yeah.
What if he...
And even at the start of the movie, he's kind of acting like a jerk.
Well, that's the thing, too, is that he's starting to get so caught up in, like, oh, people love me, that he ends up cheating on Mary Jane. What the fuck is that about? I hate that part of the movie. What an asshole.
Yeah.
Especially because it's so weird, because he tries to frame it as like, oh, that was Spider-Man. Like, what am I supposed to do? Not that. What the fuck? Like,
you probably should have talked to her about it.
Not even that, but it's like, you don't need to do that. You can just... If he's in that situation, he can just, like, fake her out, go for a hug or something like that, you know?
Yeah, but he's like, go ahead, lay one on me.
Yeah. Like, oh my god. And I get it. It's because he's caught up in the idea of the fame, and, you know, he's finally getting that love that one, Peter Parker barely gets, and two, Spider-Man barely got. Like, even, yeah, there's a little payoff in Spider-Man 1 where the people are like, yeah, hey, buddy, if you want to get him, you got to go through me. Or no. That's what they say in 2. And in 1, the people are like...
One of them, it was, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Yeah, and then in very classic fashion, they do fuck all to stop the villain, which I find hilarious. I love that in Spider-Man 2, where they're like, if you want to get to
Joe
him...
Normans just standing in line.
Yeah. It's like...
At least in Spider-Man 1, it was fitting for the time because of real-world events. It was a nice sentiment to have.
Yeah.
In Spider-Man 2, they try to keep it up with like, oh, Spider-Man's he's a city boy. They respect him. But then it's like, just shoves him aside.
It's so good.
Like how in Spider-Man 3, there's Sam Raimi's daughter, I think, was taking pictures of...
Film's extra.
Yeah. He sells Jameson a camera, but there's no film in it.
And of course, we gotta talk about Bully Maguire.
Oh yeah, the most iconic part of the movie, actually. When I think this was The scene with like the dancing, did that happen because he beats Harry at the penthouse and he throws a grenade in his face, or was that because he got Eddie Brock fired?
I think that was right after he beat Sandman in the sewers. Because
I just remember
he's leaving and he looks at his hair in the mirror. He says, "Not in a million years," and he flushes it down a little bit.
That was after he beats Sandman in the sewers. I'm just wondering where the scene takes place with the music.
That was right after that.
Are you sure? Or was that after Eddie Brock gets fired? Because I think it was like, I haven't put in a retraction over 20 years, and it's like starts playing the music.
Maybe it might have been after that, actually.
Whatever. Where it happens is irrelevant. All we know is that there's a scene where Tobey Maguire is strutting down the street, and like women are looking at him like he's a weirdo, and he's like doing finger guns,
just like the game.
He goes into a store, comes out wearing like a $2,000 suit.
That suit looks bad as fuck, though. That's a good looking suit.
Yeah, that's expensive.
And then he hits a woman, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked up.
Bit of a weird champ.
And he flirts with the lady.
Betty? Or yeah.
Is that Betty Brant? Is that? I don't know.
Black hair, Bob's?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Betty. And he's like, "Hey, sugar." And she's like, "Oh my god,
She
Peter."
goes, Peter Parker.
Dude. This movie's so dumb.
That middle half of the movie, as like entertaining as it is so disconnected from like everything else.
It's awful. It's so awful. And you think of things like, how did Eddie Brock find out? Did he know Peter's identity? Oh, he did. Yeah, because he in the church, right?
Yeah.
But how did he know that, like, where to find Mary Jane? Because she just gets into a cab and he turns around and he's like, "Hey, where are you going?"
Yeah, he's just sitting in a taxi. What if someone else went in there?
He would eat them.
There's also like,
"You're not MJ."
How did Eddie Brock like Photoshop a picture so well to make it look like Spider-Man was robbing a bank?
No, I thought he dressed up in a fake suit.
No, that's in the video game.
Oh, yeah.
In the movie, he like photoshops an image, and like,
I mean, I guess it's possible. Like, if you with enough.
Well,
time.
he gets caught because Peter looks at it and he like points out all the mistakes.
Yeah,
but like still, like, how do you like do that?
And it's crazy because nowadays I could deep fake like any celebrity. You know, we could do
deep
this.
Fake the Tobey Maguire.
Yeah. Like, they've deep faked him on top of MCU Spider-Man and shit. Yeah, Spider-Man 3 the writing's really weird. It's very disconnected. It feels like a mess. There's some good moments. You know, the quips from Spider-Man and Peter, Bully Maguire, are as good as ever. But yeah, I think we're both in agreement that this goes at the bottom of the list so far.
Yeah, I wouldn't
put it like in what, B tier?
I'd put it in C.
Only reason it's not in D is just because it's fun, I guess. Yeah. So then we get into the Webb duology. It should have been a trilogy. Well, okay, not should have. Could have been a trilogy. And we have the Amazing Spider-Man 1. And we have talked about this before, but we are both in agreement that Spider-Man 1 probably has... The first half of Amazing Spider-Man is fantastic, without
Absolutely.
a doubt. After the bridge scene, I would say maybe after the school scene, like halfway through its second act and like most of the third act, it really falls flat. And it doesn't enter bad necessarily. I just find it forgettable.
Yeah. It's like that problem I mentioned with Spider-Man 1, except like way more apparent.
Yeah.
The origin stuff, arguably, is better than the Sam Raimi one, I'd say.
Yeah, something I like about Andrew Garfield, or I guess it's not his interpretation, but just his acting. Andrew Garfield is amazing, by the way, in this movie, and I don't know why people shouldn't fault him. They should be getting angry at the writers and whatnot, or not. Like don't get angry at anyone, but what's up?
Andrew Garfield is just a great actor in general. Like,
yes.
Social Network, he did a fucking great job in that movie too.
Oh yeah, and so what I like is that he immediately gets a bit of an ego. Mm-hmm. Like, that basketball scene is complete, and they make it seem like, especially Uncle Ben makes it seem like he's an asshole for that. Fuck that. He took so much shit from Flash throughout the entire movie, and then he gets to do a little payback and embarrass him in front of anybody. Yeah, do it. I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. Yeah, you know what? You're being a bit of a dick, but the guy had it coming. Somebody's got to do it.
It also makes more sense for Uncle Ben to be more disappointed in that than when he fights him in the first one, because that was self-defense.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Like, this one, he's going out of his way to be an asshole.
Yeah, and Peter threw, like, one punch in the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was mostly dodging and then eventually just hit him with one punch and then ran away. Like, that's the epitome of just defending yourself, trying not to get hurt. But yeah, and in the first movie, when he's talking to criminals, like, "Oh no, my greatest fear is small knives." Like he's a bit of an asshole, and I like that because he knows he's just fucking unstoppable now. And I think that's absolutely great. I love the scene when he wakes up with his powers and like he goes to open the door and he just rips the handle off. And he goes to squeeze some toothpaste out and it just like shoots out. It cooms everywhere. I love that
the
stuff.
bathroom by accident.
Yeah. So how do you feel about Oscorp in the movie? Because Oscorp is this big, I guess, like conspiracy in the movie.
Oscorp is like the super villain factory in both of these movies.
Yeah, they're the big pharma.
I guess it's like a way to tie it together. They wanted to tie Peter and what's the lizard's name again?
Connors.
Dr. Connors, yes. I genuinely forgot. Like, they wanted to put them together to get that, like, relationship going. Like, kind of similar to the first Spider-Man movie, the Sam Raimi one. Mm-hmm. They're already associated with each other. They had some sort of, I guess, relationship, if you want to call it that. And the way they did it here was that they made Peter's dad, like, a coworker of his. This is one thing I really don't like about the Marc Webb movies, where they made Peter Parker's parents, like, the most important people, like, ever.
Yeah.
Like they try to like build up Spider-Man as this chosen one, and in fact Amazing Spider-Man 2 does basically say that.
Yeah,
it gets rid of a lot of the everyman aspect of the character.
At least the fight scenes in Amazing Spider-Man 1 were really good. That fight in the elementary school, the high school, is so well made, and the visual effects are fantastic, and they get exponentially better in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Something unique to Amazing Spider-Man 1 that I kind of wish they did just a little bit more was they had first-person scenes when he's swinging. Like, they occasionally cut to a first-person shot. That is very cool. In fact, the first teaser trailer was just that entirely.
So awesome. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about the suit?
Good old basketball man. I think he looks pretty cool.
Yeah, I have no issues with the suit. I think people hate on it too much.
I actually really like the Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit, like, a lot. Like, the yellow lenses are pretty cool. I used to think they were weird. I like them a lot.
And I like the homemade suit he has. Again, big sucker for those.
You call it the homemade suit? He's just wearing, like, a ski mask and sunglasses. And
it's homemade. So overall, though, I think it's a perfectly good movie. I think I'd put it above Spider-Man 3, but not the first two Raimi movies.
Yeah. I like the score of Amazing Spider-Man 1 was done by James Horner, who passed away. Mm-hmm. Well, he died in an accident, right?
Oh.
And
rest in peace.
Before one of the other movies on this list, I would say that this was my favorite score of a Spider-Man movie as a whole. Like, there were themes in the Raimi trilogy that I liked more, but as an overall score with, like, leitmotifs, I really like Amazing Spider-Man 1's. And also the theme for Spider-Man in that movie was used in No Way Home, which I thought was the better Amazing Spider-Man theme anyways, so that's good.
Yeah, I just generally, I like Peter Parker in this game. I like Gwen. I know that people don't like that Peter Parker, like, skateboards. Like, he's not a complete nerd. And I do agree that the skateboarding felt a little out of place, to be honest with you, but it didn't bother me.
I wouldn't really say
much.
the skateboarding, more so he's a little too confident right off the get-go. Yeah,
but I also feel like that reflects a more modern nerd, if that makes sense. Like, nerds aren't coming to school in, high-waist slacks and overalls anymore. Like, teenagers now are showing up in skinny jeans and Converse, like nerd teenagers.
Like, this Peter, like, he's smart still.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's just that he's quiet.
Yeah.
Like, he's a little kept to himself, but in this movie, there's still parts where he's, like, a little too confident, like, before he even gets his powers, I think.
Yeah. The biggest inconsistency is that Andrew Garfield is a fucking hunk in this movie.
Andrew
right
Garfield
from the get-go.
Is chiseled.
Peter Parker is not supposed to be that attractive. Fix it.
And since we didn't mention it yet, this has the other Pog face we were talking about.
Yeah.
Where there's a montage of him testing out his powers to Coldplay. And near the end of it, he starts swinging off of hanging chains. And once he gets it all done, he nails it perfectly. He looks up at the camera, he smiles, and then he just screams.
He goes, woo!
It is ridiculous.
But he makes the perfect Pog face when he does it.
He does.
So good, dude. Yeah, the ending was fine, I guess. I felt like Gwen in this movie was really cool. I find it weird because I've watched this one quite recently. Like I watched it I think 2 months ago. But I feel like I don't remember much in that second half because it's basically Lizard doing lizard things. Although I do like the scene in the sewer where he puts the webs together to find which tunnel the lizard's in.
That's really cool, but then he has property of Peter Parker on his camera.
Yeah, little stupid, I guess, but I'll be honest, if that were me, I would have forgotten about that. Property of Spider-Man. Okay, so now we move on to what I think everyone would universally say is the worst Spider-Man movie. If not this, they'd probably say Spider-Man 3, but I think most would say Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the worst Spider-Man movie ever made. And I want to throw something out here off the bat. We've talked about this before, Nick. I think this movie has the best visuals out of any Spider-Man movie so far. As far as I mean, hard to compare it to something like SpiderVerse, but as far as the realistic ones
the
go,
live action movies?
Yeah. Live action, hands down, so good. That opening 5-10 minutes of swinging is just amazing. But it seriously is. It's perfect. Absolutely sensational. But it's when you get into the plot, things started to get a little weird. The music in Amazing Spider-Man 2 is great. I love the suit redesign as well. It feels a little more reminiscent of what people are used to as far as comics go. It's not as different as Basketball Man, but it is.
It's clearly took feedback.
Yeah, and I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit is actually one of the better suits thus far.
Yeah, it looks really good. I like that it's an imperfect fit, too.
Yeah. It wrinkles.
The visual effects. I was talking to Nolan about this a few days ago outside of the podcast, to prepare for this. Mm-hmm. And I asked him, hey, have you seen the behind the scenes where they talk about the visual effects? And he said no. And he watched it. And Nolan, why don't you tell some fun facts that you learned?
I learned that they had muscle deformation on the suit that they used to just make it look more realistic and to make the suit wrinkle in places where it would naturally wrinkle and flap through the wind. I learned that they had gymnasts do the actual stunts that are being performed in the opening segment, and then they use that as reference for the CG, and fuck, I can't remember.
Overall, this movie is a technical marvel.
Yes.
Everything about it, visually speaking, looks fantastic. Even close to a decade after it came out, it still looks it looks amazing.
Oh yeah.
Great work from the VFX team. But as Nolan said, it's when the story stuff happens is where things start to fall apart, because this movie also suffers a lot from the Spider-Man 3 problem of cramming way too much into it.
Yeah, and so instead of having a through line or any meaningful plot threads, they're not even threads. They're like bullet points. They just start and don't really go anywhere. Okay, so while we're talking about visual effects, there's plenty of designs here that I absolutely love. You know, when Spider-Man is shooting his web out to Gwen, the web looks like a hand that's reaching out. Some people think that's cheesy or that's cringe. Get the fuck out of here. That's so cool. I think it's amazing. But I think the Green Goblin design is horrendous.
It looks so bad.
Technically, yeah, it's fine, but the design—it's rough, man.
It does.
I think Electro looks amazing. I need to stop saying amazing. Fuck. Electro looks good, and who's the other guy?
Rhino's in the movie for 10 minutes. No, 10 seconds.
Yeah, Rhino looks good.
Green Goblin is that thing I joke about where whenever a reboot comes out, they have to make something look kind of like the source material, but then they just change it for no reason.
And they make it really, really gritty and gross because this
really
is
stupid.
Realistic.
It's in The Batman, they have the Joker, and he's just disgusting face, deformed. It's no, just give him scars. Just give him paint. He's a clown.
Yeah. I mean, the way that Joker did it was good.
Yeah.
Where it's it was a different take, but it definitely...
It was still just makeup.
Yeah. But the way the Batman
my favorite
did it was
example,
rough.
DMC, where they make Dante... they give him the white hair only in Devil Trigger, and they give him the red jacket only in Devil Trigger. It's just give him both.
Yeah.
Virgil is stupid too, because they give him his standing hair after he gets a power up, and it's no, just have him have his hair back if you want to do that. We don't need these explanations for random design elements. And the Green Goblin is so awful looking.
Yeah. Just design wise, even if it doesn't matter the medium, because even in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 game, which is something else, it looks awful.
It looks so bad.
But Electro looks great, without a doubt.
Electro looks good, yeah.
And I think the movie, that's the movie's biggest strengths are its visuals, its fight scenes are awesome, but a lot of this stuff just doesn't hit that hard. Except for Gwen's death. Just because of how sudden and unexpected. Well, it wasn't necessarily unexpected, but it was just... That's a good scene.
I thought you were about to say it hits hard because she splats on the ground.
That's exactly what I was going for.
Okay.
Her head against the concrete is specifically what hits hard. I think it can be enjoyed on those merits, and I certainly, if we ever do a Spider-Man marathon, I would certainly never skip the movie, because there are some also funny parts, like, I hate you, Spider-Man, fucking Harry
Dane
Osborn.
DeHaan tries his hardest.
Oh, poor guy.
He tries really hard, but it's hard to disassociate him with Andrew from Chronicle.
Yep.
And secondly, what they have him do is so goofy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of this movie is when Spider-Man feels the need to show up at his penthouse in costume to tell him, I'm not going to give you my blood to save your life. Like, instead of just not showing up at all. And then when he leaves, he hangs out outside of his window, and then you just hear him flip a table. You see it happen. It's so funny.
So weird, man.
Yeah.
And they do the For You song.
Oh, I forgot about that.
The fucking hands down worst part of the movie.
Yeah, Philip Phillips, let's go.
Hey, you know what though? I like that he takes a break after Gwen dies. Like, he's like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Like, I think that part of the movie is cool. And then when the kid, like a fucking idiot, decides to just like stand in front of the rhino and it inspires him, he's like, I
like the part where he fixes the kid's project.
Yeah.
When he walks home with them, that's pretty cool.
Because that's the friendly neighborhood stuff that's really... That I think gets lost in some of the bigger Spider-Man productions.
It's hard to focus on that when they want to do, like, a movie with all these, like, villains and shit.
Yeah, and they want to up the stakes to something like, Venom and Sandman take over a construction site where, at that point, the military should very much be concerned. And, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, how come nobody's calling the cops? Or it's like, you see that a lot.
It's hard to call the cops on an alien.
Yeah, and we're not going to levy these criticisms against the MCU where we're like, how come they don't just call the Incredible Hulk? Because it's like, it's movie thing. Like, you kind of have to...
It's dumb comic thing, too.
You really take it as it is.
It's like,
and
there are so many superheroes in New York in the comics, like, who would ever commit a crime?
Yeah. And it's like, even if, say, all the major ones are off fighting Kang or something like that, I would not rob a store, because it's like, I could get my ass handed to me by fucking Squirrel Girl or something.
It's a roulette wheel. It's like, you're in Hell's Kitchen, looks like Daredevil's here. You could go anywhere else, fucking Moon Knight jumps in and breaks your arm.
Yeah, you go to Harlem, Miles Morales comes in, you get a Air Jordan to the face.
There's two Spider-Men. They're just there.
Yeah, and then Avengers headquarters is also there. And the Sanctum Sanctorum, where they're actual wizards that could just teleport you to the fucking Shadow Realm, or they just hang out. Anyways, yeah, we're not going to talk about that. Point is, Amazing Spider-Man 2 does have some of that small town friendly neighborhood stuff, which I loved, and I actually think the first 15 minutes of the movie are fantastic, and then it just very, very quickly goes downhill. So I'm comfortable putting this in D tier. What about you?
Oh yeah, same. I don't like this movie that much.
So
at all.
To refresh the viewers, we have in A tier, we have Spider-Man 2, then Spider-Man. We have Amazing Spider-Man in B, Spider-Man 3 in C, and then Amazing Spider-Man 2 in D. And so the next movie on the list now is Homecoming, which, I mean, we want to talk about, we want to talk about, oh man. Oh,
Friendly Neighborhood.
Yes, thank you.
You want to start again?
Yeah. If we want to talk about friendly neighborhood stuff, this is the movie. Within the wider MCU, you had Civil War, the massive movie. You had the Avengers movies, massive. To have something like this that is so small scale is really refreshing. Like, not only does it fit the character, but it's also, the Vulture's just, he's gonna rob banks or some shit. Like, he's not gonna blow up the world.
It's even a nice step back compared to the Amazing Spider-Man movies, where there's so many different villains. Like, the Lizard tried to turn the whole city into lizards.
Yeah, and then the Vulture is just like, yeah, I want to make money.
Yeah.
And on top of that, this movie does not go over the Uncle Ben stuff, which I love. Let's get some thoughts out first about what do you think of Tom Holland?
I think he does a great job in this movie. Well, in all of the movies, actually.
Yeah, 100%.
He's not my favorite Spider-Man actor, I still think. I think Andrew Garfield is probably, like, as an actor, my favorite one.
Yeah.
But in terms of capturing the performance as both Peter Parker and Spider-Man, this one leans way more into Peter Parker than the Spider-Man personality. But when he does do the Spider-Man stuff, it does sound very natural for him.
Mm-hmm.
He looks the part. He can do, like, he has a background in gymnastics, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
I think that's what got him the role anyways.
Yeah, because he did a flip. Hey, Spider-Man, do a flip.
I think Tom Holland does a great job. I like the supporting characters a lot, too.
Yep.
I don't remember who the actor is, but Ned giving Miles, like, best friend character to Peter for these movies was such a good idea.
Think so?
It was great. Like, giving Spider-Man, like, a best friend is such a good idea.
Yeah, but it also makes me think, like, well, what about when we get a Miles movie? I guess I'll have Genki, but...
Well, they're the same person, basically.
Yeah.
And we do have a Miles movie, and we don't even have Genki.
No, I mean like a live action.
By the time we get a live action Miles, we're probably going to be, like, so long in the future.
I hope not.
Because Peter Parker is just synonymous with the character, and I don't think general audiences would be too comfortable just giving that up.
Dude, I think they would be. Like, you could have both exist at the same time, like with PS4. Like, you know, you could have, I don't know if it would work, but what if you just had Miles Morales in, like, a different city that's, like, kind of like New York? Like, you could have him in, like, Chicago or something.
Like, you could, but I think part of what makes Miles an interesting character to me is the legacy aspect.
Yeah.
Of trying to live up to the big mantle of Spider-Man, but doing it his own way. But we're talking about a different movie, so let's hold on to that for a second.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. I agree. I think Tom Holland's great. I think he's my least favorite of the Spider-Men, but he absolutely kills it. He's the only actor to be in high school and actually somewhat look like a high schooler.
Oh, he's only like 23 or 24.
Yeah.
Like now.
Yeah, and so he did great. Yeah, it just felt natural. I think we've talked about this. We talked about this in the last episode on the MCU, so we won't jump too far into it, but his introduction to Civil War with that trailer was a bad jumping off point.
It was a horrible first impression.
But this movie really redeemed it for me. I love the small scale stuff. I love the Vulture. And I'm skimming over stuff because we've already talked about this last episode. I love the scene where the Vulture discovers that it's the Peter Spider-Man, and you can see the wheels turning. We forgot to talk about that in the MCU episode, and that is one of my favorite. That's probably my favorite scene across the entirety of the Spider-Man MCU movies.
It's a nice lighting detail is that when it clicks for him, the light turns green.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Perfect, so good.
This movie also had it adapted the debris on him, and he has to lift it up, and they do it in a very great way in this movie.
The visual effects are pretty good here too.
Visual effects are pretty good, yeah. But it also has the MCU pipeline problem where they have to get rushed out so fast that it's not always polished.
Yeah, some of it does look very, it almost looks elastic.
Yeah, there's points in this movie where the suit is entirely CG.
Yeah.
Like where it doesn't have to be, and because of it, he looks off.
Yeah. It's not too distracting. Like, I think I only really notice it if I'm looking for it, but upon rewatching, it
doesn't look horrible. Me. It's just sometimes it's uncanny.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even say it's like distracting. Mm-hmm. I don't know. About
another part of this movie I like is in the opening where he's at the school. They're building up. They establish that he's so excited to be a superhero, and he wants to only like focus on that. That in between classes, he's like making web fluid.
Yeah.
Like that's one of my favorite shots is when he just like has this little drawer open and he's just like quickly trying to make it when no one's like looking because he can't afford that shit on his own.
As we think about it more, like this is an exceptional movie. And I think maybe I get disillusioned with the amount of MCU Spider-Man hate that is especially recently coming to light, which we saw the most of with No Way Home or Far From Home, sorry. But yeah, I just think it's a fantastic movie. Where do you think it belongs?
I like it more than Amazing Spider-Man 1. I think I would still call it a B-tier movie.
Yep, because I think the stuff with Iron Man, I wasn't super into it. Like, I don't have a problem with it, but I don't... That wasn't a standout for me. I was just, it was just fine. The only reason I don't think it's an issue is because it has such a great payoff throughout the rest of the trilogy, and it makes sense that he's there.
Yeah.
And I love the line, if you're nothing without the suit, you shouldn't have it.
Yeah, it's a great line.
Especially coming from Tony Stark.
Yeah, because it initially seems very hypocritical, but it's really not.
Yeah, because, I mean, a big part of Iron Man 3 was Tony learning to not, I guess, rely on the suits.
And even then, he still built those by himself.
That, and there was a part in Iron Man 3 where didn't you have to, like, use, like, only a hand blaster to, like, move through
He makes,
the
like,
Mandarin
a
thing?
gun out of, like, a nail.
Yeah.
Like a gun that shoots nails and, like, grenades just on his own.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
So, and yeah, I'm comfortable putting it there too. I think if the Amazing Spider-Man, if the beginning of the first half of that movie was as good as if the second half was as good as the first half, I'd say Amazing Spider-Man 1 might be even better than the Raimi Spider-Man 1, but it is unfortunately not.
Yeah.
So next up on the list is Spider-Verse, which interestingly enough is where we differ quite a bit opinion-wise, because I know what you think of this movie. So why don't you take it away?
Spider-Verse, I am 100% serious. This is my favorite movie ever made. Like, this is more than just the best Spider-Man movie for me. This is my favorite film just ever. Like, stylistically, incredibly unique. Animation-wise, it's gorgeous. And story-wise, I think it makes Miles Morales a very interesting and compelling character, which, without this movie, I do not think could be said.
Like, what's up, Danger?
Oh, and also, I said it a little earlier, this has my favorite score of all Spider-Man movies, too.
Yep.
Not just the licensed music, but the actual regular music that plays in the movie is amazing. It is so well done. This is also the only movie where its soundtrack I actually have on my Spotify playlist.
Yeah, because they're good songs on their own.
Yeah, they're fantastic songs.
As much as so let's explain why we meme on What's Up Danger so much. One, the title of the song is stupid as fuck. And I understand, like, the significance of the movie. It's like, you know, not having fear and whatnot, and like having that, I guess, coolness to it, that exaggerated swagger, some might say. But on the Spider-Man PS4 subreddit, especially when Miles Morales came out, people would take a photo of the game and made it look like one of the promotional images, and actually one of the scenes from the Spider-Man movie, where the skyline of New York is upside down, and it looks like Miles is like floating up towards it. And they would all title it "What's Up, Danger?" And we would see. I was very active on the Spider-Man subreddit because I love that game, and I love seeing different photo mode pictures. And I would see a "What's Up, Danger?" post probably 5 fucking times a day, and every time it would get thousands of upvotes. And then you'd see the most stylized photo, like, so this shit looks like a painting, and like 5 upvotes. And then some dude just posts the same fucking screenshot with the same "What's Up, Danger?" and they get Reddit Gold, Reddit Silver, Reddit Platinum, Reddit Ruby, and oh my god, fuck right off, dude. And it makes me so fucking mad. I'm so tired of seeing "What's Up, Danger?" on my fucking feed. And so whenever so that's like, I can't listen to the song without thinking of the stupid subreddit. And every time I'd read the post, I'd read it with the voice of the guy who sings the song, where he's like, "What's up, Danger? Don't be a stranger."
Good.
Fucking, that song sucks a dick now. But disconnecting it from that, it's a good song, though. And I think a lot of the music is fantastic.
I think that scene in the movie, the Leap of Faith scene, is the best payoff in the Spider-Man series for the movies, I think.
Yeah, and you want to talk about visuals? I know that it's a tough comparison because one's live action and one's animated, but the visuals in this movie are perfection. Mm-hmm. They don't get better. It's so good. And it's so stylized. The style is amazing. Like, I feel bad even calling this technically a cartoon or something like that, you know?
Yeah, like, every character from every universe has their own unique way of moving. They have different animation styles, different art styles. It's so impressive. One of my favorite details of the movie is when the characters are introducing themselves, they always throw, like, a comic book cover on screen.
Let's do this one last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, like after the "What's Up, Danger?" Leap of Faith scene, Miles gets his comic thrown onto the screen, like his origin is complete.
Yeah. It's just overall a fantastic movie.
The voice acting is fantastic. The guy who played Peter B. Parker did a fucking great job.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of downsides of the movie, and it's really hard to...
It's hard.
Think of
like
any.
I think this is the most solidly constructed Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, it just feels feels right.
It's legitimately funny too. It's not like, haha, that's kind of funny. It's like, I thought this movie was like laugh out loud funny.
I think the Spider-Ham stuff is a little obnoxious, to be honest with you.
The Spider-Man, it's a little obnoxious.
That's kind of like his thing, though. Like, it's meant to be
like
so
he was
absurd.
definitely put in there for like smaller, like younger kids. But like you see someone like Kingpin who's just massive.
Dude, I love that Kingpin's just an egg. Holy shit.
You see him get out of a car at one point in the movie and it makes no sense.
I like even subtler, not subtle, but like just, I like the absurd parts of it. Like the idea that Aunt May was completely in on it in his Spider-Man's universe and just has like an underground
he
vault.
has just like a bat cave
that features the Spider-Man PS4 suit, which I think is the best Spider-Man suit to date, by the way.
I also love how Miles, his suit is just the classic suit, but spray painted over with his own visual style.
Yep. And when he looks up to the suit the first time, the suit is like too big for him.
Yeah.
Because he's not Spider-Man yet, but then I don't know what happens. And just visual gags like when Miles' roommate is spinning around in the chair and everyone collectively is moving along the ceiling.
Also, like, Penny Parker, she can't stick to walls, so everyone's just, like, carrying her along the wall, too.
Yeah. And I like the variety of Spider-Man. I'm glad they didn't just do... I mean, noir is a given, but I'm glad they didn't just do the most well-known ones. Like, I think Penny Parker's a pretty obscure cut. And even same with Spider-Ham, to be honest with you. And I think overall movie it's just good. I almost have little to say.
I could put this movie on and just watch it, like, whenever.
Yeah.
I think this is my favorite movie ever. Phil Lord and Chris Miller, very talented directors. Watch the Jump Street duology. Watch everything they made. It's awesome. Like, they're great.
I love the Jump Street movies. Okay, so you know what? Initially, me and Nick have had big disagreements over what the best Spider-Man movie is, but now that we've talked about it a lot more, I don't know. I think I'm in agreement that this is probably the best Spider-Man movie, at least so far out of this list. And yeah, not much more to say except we're moving on back to the MCU where we have. Oh, actually, no. So we have a little surprise for you. Among the Spider-Man movies, we are also going to talk about Venom. And if you want to talk about some good-ass soundtracks, Venom! It's gonna get him, Venom! Holy shit, dude. This movie fucking rules.
I fucking hate this movie so much.
It's so... Okay, I'm not joking. This is not a Spider-Man 3, oh, it's so bad you can enjoy it. I genuinely think Venom kicks ass. It's a dope movie. It's funny as hell. The action scenes are really good, except for the last one. And the old married couple dynamic that is Eddie and Venom is spectacular. Just off the bat, I'd put this shit in B tier above Homecoming. No lie.
You're insane.
No word of a fucking lie, dude.
You're so insane.
Like, I love this movie. I love when he just... Venom doesn't like being called a parasite, and he's like... You know, Eddie, back on my planet, I was a loser, a virgin, a little cuck baby like you.
So lame.
It's so good. Lame. It's so fucking good. Oh my god. And I love that. Tom Hardy just kills it. He's such a bumbling idiot the entire movie. It's so
Tom Hardy's
funny.
stupid accent in this movie. I hate it so much. He's like slurring all of his words.
And he has to like he jumps into the lobster tank and starts just eating them raw. It's that's good. Funny. There's so many funny moments in this movie.
There's a part where Eddie Brock fucking makes out with female Venom.
Yeah, female Venom, that's awesome. And then you have Riot. Oh, Riot's cool. I can't help but love it. I love everything about it.
I think my biggest issue with Venom personally is that it barely feels like a completed movie.
Yeah, the third act is just action scene and...
Like, everything feels so rushed. He gets the Venom, like, symbiote suit, and then there's, like, the initial action scene, and then one after that, and then we're at, like, the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like pacing wise, there's definitely some issues. I guess this is the little kid inside of me losing his mind because there's actually a Venom movie, and I think it's amazing. This movie's funny as fuck. I don't care what anyone says. I will never get tired of, like, even they expand on this more in the second movie, but it's just this idea of they're at the convenience store and he's like, "Oh, can I get M&Ms, please?" And then the fucking Eddie's like, "Oh, we can't do M&Ms, you know, they cost way too much money. Can we get the no name brand?" "No, they don't taste as good." "Well, we got to make a compromise here. We're supposed to be a team, you know. We got to be eating, we got to be saving our money. We got to keep buying chickens to keep feeding you." "No, I want the name brand." And it's dumb as fuck, but it's so funny. And yeah, who am I kidding? It's C tier. I'd put it above Spider-Man 3, genuinely.
I don't think I would.
What, would you put it above Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Probably, because Amazing Spider-Man 2 feels like the most corporate fucking movie ever.
Yeah, every there's like so many Sony ads in the movie, front and center.
So many Sony ads. It only exists to like make the Sinister Six movie that was going to happen.
I think the cherry on top of that sentiment is the For You song.
Yeah. Like, this movie has the Venom rap, which is hilariously awful.
No, okay, I don't think the song is that bad. It's only awful because it's Venom. They made an
Eminem is talented. Yeah, it's just that like
the song
the
itself
fact that
is
they made
fine.
a movie about Venom and then they ended the movie with a song about Venom.
It's so
it's like a
funny.
rap song and it goes, not the devil.
Yeah,
it's
dude.
so fucking
So funny.
No.
Okay.
There are points in this movie that I think are genuinely funny though.
Like what?
I like you said, the lobster scene. I think a lot of the one-off lines, like when he tells him to jump off a building and then he can't do it, and he just like goes down the stairs and like calls him a pussy.
Yeah.
I think that's funny.
It's definitely got some good stuff. I couldn't care less for Riot though.
The final action scene is awful, I think.
Yeah, because it's two very dark, black, gooey figures fighting in darkness.
It's a black alien versus a gray alien at night, and they're made out of goo, so they're like splashing everywhere.
That's one thing I wish we saw more of, was just daytime Venom. Like broad daylight fucking shit up.
Also, I hate the Venom design in this movie.
It's different.
It looks like he's covered in globs of semen. It's awful.
Yeah, the veins.
Yeah,
they
I
made
don't
it a
really
lot
like
better
it.
in the second movie. Have you seen the second one?
I've not seen the second
Okay,
movie.
that's great, because that means I can place it wherever I want, and you can't.
That means you could
me.
place it in S tier, and I can't disagree. I have not seen the movie. It could be an S tier movie.
Holy shit! All right, well, let's move on then to Spider-Man: Far From Home, which I think is possibly the most hated MCU Spider-Man movie, and I don't totally get it.
It's hated. Like, people treat this as one of the worst Spider-Man movies, and I really don't agree at all.
And I don't understand it. We talked about it in the MCU movie, but people say, "Oh, well, Peter's like stupid in this movie," and I don't know how you can look at somebody who makes a bad decision after having their father figure die and then having them die for 4 years and then come back to life and say, "Yeah, they're making stupid decisions." I wouldn't have done that. Me, smart person, would never do that.
Me, person who isn't emotionally compromised.
Yeah. Hey, me, person who isn't in this situation, I wouldn't do that. It's fucking hindsight Andes, dude. But genuinely, I think this is a great movie. Visual effects are so good, and I love that they basically have an excuse to go full CGI for Mysterio. And the visuals in the Mysterio segments are really cool.
I think the scene where he makes the entire area out of CGI and fucks with him, like transporting him to different locations, showing him a bunch of this like imagery, I think is easily the best part of the movie. And that scene alone might push it over the edge of me liking it more than Homecoming.
Because I think Homecoming, because of its smaller scale, feels more not complete, but just feels more consistent. I think Far From Home did some really cool stuff with the elementals, and I think they did some really cool stuff with just a new setting. They were in Venice in the movie, right?
Yeah, they were in Europe at least.
And for the first time, we've had a Spider-Man movie not take place in New York. And doesn't Venom take place in Chicago, I think?
I don't know.
But either way, you know, not having a Spider-Man movie take place in some major American city is cool. And I love the Night Monkey outfit. And Ned is, again, amazing. But nothing's going to top the Infinity War. We're all going to die.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm comfortable putting... So where do you think this goes then?
I think it's also a B tier movie.
Okay.
I think it's slightly better than Homecoming personally, if only because of that one scene. Otherwise, I think they're pretty comparable to each other.
Yeah.
Pretty equal.
And then we'll do No Way Home next.
3. It's a magic number.
So No Way Home is less fresh since our MCU episode, and I've thought about it more. And I think in a lot of ways there's a little too much going on. Like, to me, the movie, aside from how rock hard it gets my nostalgia boner, I feel like it's almost sensory overload from start to finish. And it's such an out there movie. Like, it immediately starts with his identity getting leaked by Mysterio and almost immediately transitions into Doctor Strange, the spell, and I think No Way Home has a lot of great moments, i.e. that final battle. And the returning cast of Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe just are incredible. No question about it. But it just feels as though overall, it's just a lot. And it's a long movie too.
It is a very long movie.
And it just doesn't, I don't know how to explain it. It feels like if you take out all the nostalgia and all the returning villains, like say they completely recast the other two Spider-Men and they're from different universes, how much would you still like this movie?
I'd still like it quite a bit.
I just don't know if I'd like it more than, like Spider-Man 2 or SpiderVerse.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say I like it more than those two.
But also, Tom Holland delivers his best performance in this movie by far. Mm-hmm. And there's some great little details, like when he uses the nanotech Iron Spider suit and then takes it off when approaching the car. I saw this on a behind-the-scenes video. His suit is deliberately wrinkled. Like, he's wearing, like, the blazer, like that suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he takes the nanotech off, his clothing is wrinkled. Stuff like that. I kind of love that. And things like his spider sense going off. Because I like that they sort of nerf his spider sense in these movies. Because there's an issue that comes up in the Raimi movies and the Webb movies to an extent, which is that how is any villain supposed to get a hit in on Spider-Man if he's not heavily distracted or basically backed into a corner? Like, there's a lot of moments in Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, and Amazing Spider-Man where Peter just gets hit from behind or something, and you think, how did he not sense that? And I don't care, like, that's not a huge problem for me, but the way that the way that the Home trilogy handles that in saying that it's, it's powerful, but it's not foolproof, and it's not, like, busted, is interesting, because then you don't have that issue, and then you can believe that it's not just a unconscious thing. He has to focus and look for something, and I think that's represented so well in the scene where everyone's in the apartment and he's like, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. Like, he looks at,
that's very good.
Norman. That's probably the best scene in the movie, or the coolest scene in the movie in my opinion. And then of course when he's talking to the other Spider-Man, it's quite good.
I really like the ending.
Yeah, I love seeing Spider-Man doing awful. I love that he's broke as fuck again. He's no friends, no loved ones. Everyone he knows is either dead or forgot about him. That's what I want to see. Yeah, it's good movie.
Yeah, we already talked about this recently in the MCU episode. Not many of my thoughts have changed.
Yeah, I just think that I've come off the nostalgia high, which is, if we're going to rank this, I would say it's above No Way Home, not above the first Spider-Man for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because I think if you remove the Tobey and Andrew stuff from it, which maybe it's not fair to do so.
It's kind of... I wouldn't really say it's fair because it is like a crossover.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? And fuck this movie for cucking Venom.
That is... I forgot about that, yeah.
Yeah. This movie got my hopes up because I was like, oh my god, Venom's going to be in there and he's going to help in the final battle. And then he's just in Hawaii or some shit. Yeah. All right. You know what? F tier. Yeah, we'll put it top of B tier.
I'm willing to put an A.
Yeah, put it in A. Okay. And then the last movie on the list, Venom 2, baby. Let there be carnage. What a fucking stellar movie. Okay, so here's the thing. The first Venom was good in the sense that it was very funny at times, but took itself too seriously. And you can agree with that, right, Nick? In some ways, it took itself a little too seriously.
Yeah, it was a very traditional superhero type movie.
Venom 2 tosses all of that out the window and purely focuses and just leans into how insane and stupid it is. It does a lot of callbacks to comics and TV, i.e. Carnage hacks a laptop by just sticking his tentacles into it. And they play it so straight. And just things like, Woody Harrelson is amazing in this movie. Tom Hardy is just so fucking good. And the redesign, the Venom redesign is really good. I love it. But
there was a redesign?
Basically, they made the white cum lines smaller and less noticeable. And they just changed his face and eye proportions. And so his head has like minor bulges where there should be eyebrows. So he just looks more expressive. Mm-hmm. And it does ultimately look a fair bit better.
I did see what Carnage looks like in the movie. He looks pretty cool.
Carnage looks awesome. And the CGI in the movie is pretty good, all things considered. And it's a funny ass movie. The movie basically starts with a scene of them trying to cook breakfast together, and Venom's like singing some song while Eddie's like trying to get work done and shit. It's so funny. And just I sound like such a child, but the image of Eddie singing, or not Eddie, Venom singing while making breakfast. Like, he has all these tentacles. He's got like 5 frying pans going. He's like, you say either, I say either, I don't either. It's so fucking funny. And then they start arguing with each other, and it was really it's like they start arguing, and Eddie's like, oh, you keep wanting to eat people. We can't eat people. We're the good guys. We're not supposed to. I get hungry. And then they fight and they leave. And then Venom is then a fucking goop on the road who possesses this lady, goes to a rave. He's like, who's ready to get in the house? And he just parties. And then on the microphone is like, and fuck people who don't respect you for who you are and to try and change you. And the crowd's like, yeah. And that's his like redefining moment. That's his arc of realizing that like he needs Eddie and he loves him. And it's so stupid because there's a thing that they introduce in the movie is that there's compatibility. Mm-hmm. And so Venom is compatible with only certain humans. And there is this friendship thing that doesn't really work out. So the reason that Carnage is so powerful and red is, I think, if I remember correctly, is because Woody Harrelson and the Carnage symbiote are compatible. Or actually, sorry, it's Woody Harrelson and the Venom symbiote are compatible. And so they become much more powerful. And so the idea that they play is that Eddie and Venom may not be compatible physically, but they're a great team. Mm-hmm. And so they kind of try to do this, like, friendship is stronger than being compatible.
They have the power of friendship.
Basically. But it's really stupid, but it's so fun. And I look, I gave you a lot of placements here. You gotta let me put Venom 2 in A tier. I fucking love this movie.
Okay, you can have that. I haven't seen it. Could be A tier. I can't disagree.
If you tell me, yo, you want to watch Far From Home or Venom 2, I'd want to watch Venom 2. I'm not gonna put it above that, but I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna say that this might be one of my favorite superhero movies in a long time, especially because it's so different. It's so stupid and cheesy, and I'm gonna get so much shit for this, but I love it. I can't wait for Venom 3. There's gonna be a Venom 3. I hope. Oh god, I hope. And yeah, so let's recount our final rankings. I'm gonna be honest. Don't count Venom 2. We're not gonna be serious about that. I'm serious,
also,
but yeah.
I guess technically the only Spider-Man movie we haven't seen and isn't on this list is Morbius, but like, who fucking cares?
Yeah, fuck that, dude. S tier, or sorry, we'll go D tier. We have Amazing Spider-Man 2. Good visuals, not much else. C tier, we have Venom. Decent visuals, decent jokes, but everything else
better than Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 3 is at the top of C tier, where we just have a movie that has a lot of fun and memorable moments, but basically looking at it critically or even looking below the surface just makes a movie fall apart. Then we have B tier, where we have The Amazing Spider-Man, where the first half of the movie is fantastic, but it falls off pretty hard after that. We have Spider-Man Homecoming, which is, while not reaching the highest of highs compared to the other movies, also doesn't reach the lower lows. It just feels like a consistently solid movie. Then there is Far From Home, which upped the stakes from Homecoming in a reasonable way and had a lot of good jokes, a lot of great action scenes. The CGI in these movies wasn't as strong as, say, Amazing Spider-Man 2, but like we said, it's good enough. And then in A tier, we have Venom Let There Be Carnage, best movie ever made. We have Spider-Man No Way Home, which was genuinely the biggest crossover of the last decade. It was a great movie for Tom Holland's Peter, and just getting to see the other Spider-Man again were fantastic. Then we have Spider-Man 1, basically the blueprint for every other Spider-Man movie to come out as far as live action goes. Not much else can be said on that front. Spider-Man 2 is at the top of A tier. A great sequel in terms of how it builds off the themes of the first movie. It's well written. It's well shot. CGI is amazing. There's a lot of practical effects. Probably the best live action Spider-Man movie there is. Not a lot to say as far as downsides. And then you want to go best Spider-Man movie, we have S tier, which is Into the Spider-Verse. Fantastic movie. Art style is not only so well animated, but so well developed. It just for what they were going for, they nailed it. If you want to talk about a movie fulfilling its vision, that's like, this is the epitome. It was funny, it had great action, it had great characters, great story, great performances. Basically no downsides, in my opinion, and the soundtrack was fantastic. Oh, last thing I'll say about Venom 2 is Venom 2 had another Venom song. This time they took a song that was already called Venom by Lil Sims and just used that for the movie, which I think was a better option. Better than getting Eminem to say Venom. And yeah, that's our ranking. That's our ranking. After 2 hours and 10 minutes of recording, that's our fucking ranking. I got laundry to do. I got to get out of here. So if you guys have your rankings, feel free to put it in the comments. I know that's... Feel free to elaborate, but I don't want to ask that you do because I feel like we're going to spawn a few essays down there. Nick, is there anything you want to say about the Spider-Man movies now that we're capping it off? I know we're kind of swiftly exiting, but it's because we have been recording for a long time now.
I like Spider-Man movies. I'll always go see them in theaters. And I'm very excited for Across the Spider-Verse, the sequel.
Oh, yeah.
That comes out next year. The first part comes out anyways. Really excited for it. Hope it's good.
And that's our rankings of the Spider-Man movies. We'll be back hopefully in a couple of weeks. I know we've slowed down with the upload schedule, but it's just because around the end of the year, Nick and I have just gotten a little bit busier, but we're trying to stay on top of it. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you in a few weeks for another episode. Nick, is there anything else you want to say?
None that I can think of. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Yeah. Okay, bye.